difference. Chapter 1. The braziers in the torture chamber had burned low while Irene waited for the Count to arrive. The stone wall behind her back was cold, even through her layers of clothing, dirndl, blouse, apron, and shawl, and the shackles scraped her wrists. Down the corridor, she could hear the sounds of the other prisoners. Suppressed tears, prayers, and a mother trying to soothe her baby. She'd been arrested at about 3 o'clock. It must be early evening by now. There were no windows in the dungeons, and she couldn't hear the bells in the castle chapel or the village church, but it had been several hours at least. She wished she'd had a bigger lunch. The door opened, and one of the guards poked his head in to check that she was still there. It was a pro forma inspection, not serious. After all, she was chained to the wall, in a locked torture chamber, deep under the castle. How could she possibly go anywhere? His assumptions would have been correct, if she hadn't been a librarian. But for the moment, they thought she was a normal human, even if they did believe she was a witch, and she had to play the part. Irene knew that the people in the small Germanic village next to the castle would be particularly devout in their prayers that night. For another witch, namely her, had been arrested by the Count's guard and hauled off to be put to the question. Otto, the Count of Zülichen, or rather Graf von Zülichen, was superstitious, paranoid, and vindictive. He was constantly on the watch for witches and plotters against his rule. The villagers would be afraid that she'd name them in her inevitable confession. The sound of weeping was hushed as the thump of marching boots echoed down the corridor. Irene swallowed, her throat abruptly dry. This was where she found out whether her plan had been quite as clever as it seemed earlier. The dungeon door was flung open brutally, crashing into the wall. Haloed in the torchlight beyond, the Graf loomed there, his arms folded. His heavy black velvet doublet suggested wider shoulders than was actually the case, but the two soldiers at attention behind him were muscular enough for any manhandling that might be necessary. He considered Irene, stroking his chin thoughtfully. "So," he finally said, "the newest witch who dares sneak into my domain and plot against me. Have you not learned, wench, that all those who came before you failed?" "Oh, forgive me, most noble Graf," Irene begged humbly. She knew that her German was too modern for this time and place, but he would probably be only too happy to take it as additional proof of witchcraft. "I was a fool to come here. I cast myself at your feet and beg for mercy." The Graf looked surprised. "You admit your guilt?" Irene looked down at the floor, trying to squeeze out a tear or two. "You have chained me in iron, your grace, and there is a crucifix on the door. I am bound, and my satanic master will no longer help me." "Well." The Graf paused, then rubbed his hands together. "Well, this makes a pleasant change. Perhaps I will not have to question you as harshly as I did your sisters. Confess all your evil doings, and name your accomplices, and you may yet be spared from damnation." "But I have done such dreadful things, most noble Graf." Irene managed a heartfelt sniffle. "How can I befoul your ears with my confession? You are a nobleman, far above such things." As she'd hoped, that gained his full interest. "Wench, there is nothing you can tell me that I have not already..."